Coilovers or lowering springs? Let's figure out what the best option for you and your Mazda 3 is today. Welcome to the channel on a brand new video. Today we're going to be going over the options of coilovers and lowering springs and weighing down the benefits and negatives of these two options to see which one will work for you. I'm going to be talking from experience as I have dealt with lowering springs and coilovers, and I am currently riding on coilovers, but I will not be one-sided. I will give multiple options for both sides and help you pick what would be best for your Mazda 3. And this goes for any car, not just Mazda 3. But if you guys are new to the channel and you want literally a whole 8-year library of Mazda 3 content and everything you need to know about these cars, make sure that subscribe button. I'm always pumping out that good Mazda 3 content. To get started, let's go over the lowering springs and coilovers and what they basically are. Then we will start weighing down the benefits and negatives of both and get you decided. The lowering spring is kind of what you expect it to be. It's just a spring that's pretty much shortened in height versus your stock spring, and it can come in different spring rates, but normally is gonna be somewhat the same. Now a coilover, some people will say coilover when they put a lowering spring onto, a shock or something, but not to get mistaken, a coilover is basically a custom spring and a custom shock set with features like height adjustability. Sometimes you get damping adjustability depending on the price point you pay and depending what coilover you get. Normally camber adjustment as well. There's a lot more in-depth stuff to a coilover, and I think one of the biggest reasons people pick a coilover over a lowering spring is because of height adjustability. But there is more. There's also options with lowering springs. You can get custom damping adjustability with aftermarket struts and shocks, but we'll go into that as we get over to the facts and the benefits. And if you guys are looking for tutorials on installing coilovers or springs, I have both on the channel. I will leave up in the top right. Now that we know what both are and their differences, let's go ahead and dig into each separately and see what we can pull out of these. Coilovers are for that a bit more in-depth into their build person. When you're comparing coilovers and lowering springs, there's, people that just kind of want to be a little lower but daily drive their car and don't do crazy things to it. But there's also people that, maybe want to adjust their camber, which you can do with lowering springs, or change their damping, or really just dial in that ride height if they're fitting some aggressive wheel. And I think that's what the coilover is for. That person that wants to race their car, that wants to get a little aggressive stance, that wants to go really, really, really low, but needs to adjust if they need to. That's what a coilover is offering you. Coilover is for that person that is a bit more dedicated to their build, really want to go with a comb and fine touch those details into their suspension, ride height, and ride quality. Again, the benefits of a coilover, you can adjust your camber, which like I said, you can do with lowering springs too, but you can spend a little bit more extra money. You can change your damping to how it rides. With some coilovers, you can change the spring rate, the spring height. You can get aftermarket to aftermarket like springs for your coilovers. There's literally like springs you can buy for your coilovers with different spring rates, colors, all that stuff, which then normally your shocks will get valved to that spring rate. You can adjust your ride height pretty much anytime you want. And they're actually sometimes easier to install because it's all in one piece versus lowering springs. Sometimes you have to take apart your struts and shocks. So you have a full wide range of adjustability. There is literally like almost nothing you can't do with a coilover. Now coilovers can get really expensive. Anywhere is up to probably like $4,000 USD. But that's okay because you're not going to probably be spending that much. Starting sets of coilovers can start at $300. Probably going to be buying that mid-tier, which is about $900 US. You can spend a little bit more and get something that rides really, really good depending on what you're looking for, which could land you around, maybe around $1,500, $1,600 US. They are more expensive than lowering springs and by a lot, which is why I think the question is raised the most if people really want coilovers. And again, that's just something you're going to have to answer using everything that we cover in this video. Like I said, though, if you want different springs for coilovers, if you want extra accessories, it's also going to add up to the cost. But again, depends what you're looking for in your suspension setup. Ride quality of coilovers can differ. Depends what kind of spring rate you get, but normally when you are going quite low, something like that, the shocks are going to ride a little worse. So in the situation of that you're in a rougher road area, coilovers might be a little bit of a pain. Thankfully, damping, depending on the coilover you get, is there to kind of help with ride quality. But with coilovers, if you smoke a pothole, it's gonna hurt. That's just kind of what you expect with, you know, a full custom ride, especially if you can go that much lower. Again, that's just something you gotta take in. It's a coilover. It's gonna ride a little bit stiffer, but that's the whole performance variant of, you know, having a coilover. The negatives of a coilover. Well, if you go cheaper, you're gonna get worse, and I mean really bad. I ran Racelands for 3 months, and that's all they lasted on my car. I could not stand them. They were not good at all. And I have decent roads around here. The build quality on the cheaper coilovers can kind of be sketchy. In a lot of situations where you can't rebuild your coilover, but you have warranty, you can be stranded by sending them off the coilover, the whole coilover, and getting a coilover back. So that could be, you know, a big wait unless you have like an extra coilover to put in your car while you wait for them to send you something back. Some places will send you a coilover, let you replace it, and then send the old one back. That depends on, you know, the manufacturer that you buy from. Full adjustability suspension. That's, you know, that's crazy, but it's good. This is for someone that just wants to put their car down a little bit, doesn't want to go too in depth. Literally a daily driver. I just want to go, like, this is the person. If this is you, then you want lowering spring. I just want to have my car lower a bit, handle just a little bit better. That's all I want to do. I don't want to worry about adjusting ride height. I just want to put the springs in, be done with it, and enjoy my car. If you said that, if that's something that you would say, then lowering springs are for you. Lowering springs are for the person that exactly just wants to have their car just a little bit lower. If you don't care about ride height, if you don't care about changing how your suspension feels, if you don't care about camber and all that stuff, grab some lowering springs, man. And they're so cheap. We'll get into that in a sec. The benefits of lowering springs, it's kind of like a one and done thing. Almost in a sense. Lowering springs drop your car to the point where you pretty much don't need to adjust anything, and you can almost run any kind of wheel you want. You can go a little aggressive, but I wouldn't suggest, because you can still rub for sure. They are pretty easy to put in. Even if you get someone to do them for you, it shouldn't be too expensive. They will, in some sense, and depending on the person, ride a little bit better than a coilover. Well, probably a lot better. And you can also keep using your OEM suspension. So it's not like you're, you know, changing a bunch of stuff. Like I said, it's one of those one and done things. If you just want to go a little bit lower, put it on. That's probably one of the biggest benefits of a lowering spring for sure. Again, lowering springs, 200 bucks US. $175 US. You get some real cheap ones, so much cheaper than a coilover. Now they can add up in price if you're going to use your OEM suspension, your shocks and struts, and they're a little older, then they'll probably blow. Ride quality again can be somewhat mid-tier, a lot lower tier, depending on these, you know, the shocks and struts that you are using with your lowering springs. It really depends what you want to do. I'm not saying it's a bad idea to run lowering springs on stock suspension, but definitely the ride quality can and might turn you off a little bit. And I'm not saying it will, but it might. The negatives of the lowering spring, like I was just saying, it can blow your shocks and struts quicker. I'm not saying that to scare you, and to be honest with you guys, it didn't bug me. And it doesn't bug me. I think that's one of the biggest negatives that a lot of people say, and I would honestly look past that. If you just replace your shocks and struts, they're gonna last a long time. They're gonna last a little less than what they normally would, but it's not like we're gonna be replacing them every 20,000 kilometers. Don't look at it that way. But it will induce more wear on your shocks and struts. Don't worry about the other suspension components. Like, seriously. That's just how lowering goes, even if you do it on coilovers. My Mazda 3's been lowered for over 100,000 kilometers, and I have not, like, literally seen anything more worse than what it would do to an OEM ride height car. But I really can't think of many negatives to lowering springs besides, you know, maybe a bad ride quality once in a while. Like I said, it's one of those one and done things. So, are you a coilover or a lowering spring person? Me personally, I've done coilovers. I probably won't do lowering springs unless, you know, maybe it's a bit more of an expensive car where it's like, okay, this has adjustable, electronically controlled suspension, and it's like an $80,000 Audi. I'll probably do lowering springs. And for example, my dad has lowering springs on his Mazda 3 sedan that he just does little subtle things to and just wanted a little bit of a lower ride height. So that kind of compares the two people, you know, that we are and our choices that we made for our suspension and how we wanted to go lower. And that is all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure that subscribe button, leave a like on the video, and comment down below, lowering springs or coilovers. I hope this guide helps you out a little bit in making a choice for your Mazda 3. And like I said, this goes for any car you want. Other than that, guys, thank you so much. Keep it real. I'll see y'all in the next one.